All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on Linux. It's that operating system that's kind of the secret engine behind, well, pretty much everything, from your phone to the biggest supercomputers on the planet. And the best part? We're going to show you how you can get started with it, like right now.
So you always hear about the pros, right? The developers, the cybersecurity folks, the sysadmins, they're all using Linux. Why is that? What makes it their go-to choice? Well, it really just boils down to a few massive advantages.
Let's just put it right up against Windows for a second. First off, cost. Most Linux versions, they're completely 100% free. No licenses, nothing. Then there's performance. Linux is famous for being lightweight, which means it doesn't hog all your computer's resources. It can run way faster on the exact same machine. And finally, security. The way it's built, with a really strong separation between different users, makes it just way less vulnerable to viruses. It's a huge deal.
Okay, so I just mentioned its architecture. What does that even mean? To really get Linux, we've got to pop the hood and see how the whole thing is actually put together, layer by layer.
Right at the very heart of it all is the Linux kernel. Now, the easiest way to think about the kernel is to imagine it's the engine in a car. It's that absolute core piece that's doing all the heavy lifting, managing the essential stuff, and making sure everything else, well, runs.
To see how this whole machine is built, let's start at the very bottom, with layer 1, the hardware. We're talking about the physical stuff you can touch, the processor, the memory sticks, the hard drive. This is the foundation that the entire system is built on.
Now, sitting right on top of that hardware is our engine, the kernel. This is the master controller, the big boss. It's talking directly to the metal and orchestrating every single thing. How memory gets used, which programs get a turn with the CPU, and how all your files are stored.
So you've got this powerful engine, but how do you actually tell it what to do? That's where the shell comes in. If the kernel is the engine, the shell is your dashboard, your steering wheel, your gas pedal. It's that command line interface where you type things in and it translates your commands into instructions the kernel can actually understand and execute. And finally, at the very top layer, riding on top of this whole structure, you have your applications. These are the programs you actually use every day. Your web browser, your music player, your coding tools. They're basically the passengers in the car using the whole system to get their job done. Okay, now here is where things get really interesting. See, unlike Windows or Mac OS, there isn't just one single Linux. Nope, it comes in a ton of different flavors, and these are called distributions or distros for short.
So what's a distro? Well, a distro takes that core Linux kernel, the engine we talked about, and it bundles it with all the other parts you need to have a working computer. The shell, all the system tools, a bunch of applications, the whole shebang. It's a complete, ready-to-go operating system.
And believe me, there is a distro for literally anything you can imagine. Ubuntu, it's amazing for beginners and just general use. Fedora is for people who want all the latest cutting-edge stuff. You've got Arch Linux for the real experts who want to build their system from the ground up. And then there are specialized ones, like Kali Linux, which is a whole toolkit just for cybersecurity pros.
All right, so you've seen the why and the what, so let's get to the how. How can you actually get a Linux environment to play around with without having to go out and buy a whole new computer?
Back in the day, you'd have to do all this complicated stuff like partitioning your hard drive. Just forget all that. Seriously. Today, the absolute easiest and, frankly, most powerful way to do it is with a container. A tool like Docker lets you run a complete, totally isolated Linux system right on top of your Windows or Mac machine. It's super fast, it's clean, and it's just incredibly efficient.
Whoa, okay, I get it. That looks like a bunch of gibberish, right? Super intimidating, but trust me on this, it's not as scary as it looks. Think of it like a recipe. Each one of those little flags is just an ingredient for building your own little Linux machine. Let's just break it down, piece by piece. It's actually pretty simple.
See? Each part is just a simple instruction. -name gives your little machine a nickname so it's easy to find. Things like -memory and -mount are just you deciding how much power it gets and which folders it can see. That -p flag, that's just for networking. And at the very end, ubuntu.latest is you telling it exactly which flavor of Linux you want to run. It's all about precise control right there in one line.
So, you're in. You have a brand new Linux environment running. The very next thing you're probably going to want to do is install some software. And this is an area where Linux just absolutely blows everything else out of the water, all thanks to something called package managers.
So what is a package manager? Honestly, it's like a magic wand for installing software. Think of it as a supercharged app store, but for your command line. You don't have to go hunting around the internet for download files anymore. Nope. You just tell the package manager what you want, and bam, it handles everything for you, finding the program, installing it, and even installing all the other little programs it needs to run correctly.
The whole process is just beautiful. First, you type a command, and it goes and looks in this huge, trusted online library. They call it a repository. Second, it instantly calculates everything else that software needs to run, all its dependencies, and it grabs those too. Finally, it just puts everything in the right place and sets it all up for you. It's just perfect automation.
And this amazing idea is everywhere in the Linux world. So whether you're on an Ubuntu system using apt or a Fedora system using DNF, the main command looks almost identical. It's great, because once you learn the concept on one distro, you basically understand how it works on all of them.
So, there you have it. We've peeled back the layers of the OS, we've looked at all the different flavors, we've spun up our own virtual environment with just a single command, and we've learned how to install pretty much any software we could ever need. You now have all the basic building blocks to really start your journey with Linux. So, the only question left is, what are you going to build first?